Hello, my name's Andy, I'm the Ginger Gamer. Welcome to episode 10. Now, what I thought I'd do is give you all a preview to the next map I'm making. As you may know, I've spent over 300 hours on the Prehistoric City map that I finally finished, and I released a couple of videos around that. And now I'm starting work on my next map. Now this is going to be a completely different kind of map. Where Prehistoric City was very obviously urban based and had lots of right angles and buildings and structures and not that much in the way of nature, this map is all about nature. It's got the working title of Prehistoric Canada, and that's because a lot of the resource material and inspiration I'm taking are from mountainous regions of Canada. So that's the working title. It may stay that, or I may change it over time. And this first section I'm showing now is based off one small resource photo I had from a hilly region of Canada, and it was just to get a taste of how to make a more realistic wild area after spending so long making a city. And then what I'm kind of doing is wanting to make sort of natural environments and then place the habitats within them and fit them in best to the topography and wildlife that I've placed there. Obviously by wildlife I mean plants and trees and that sort of thing. So a lot of these trees and ferns and things you can see here are kind of individually placed. I may have kind of painted them with the tree texture tool, landscaping here, but by and large I'd often take a load out, I'd highlight it and then delete some of it, and then place a lot of them individually just to get the look that I wanted. And obviously lots of rocks and then twigs and branches, and even trying to create some root effects around here. And that's really just to make it a little bit more natural, really. Now, as you can see, there is a bespoke barrier that I made, custom barrier that I made. And that's not really about keeping animals out, that's stopping people falling in. But that's just kind of a sort of test environment. And I have used that a little bit later in the map of the work I've done already. Now, I can't remember exactly how long I've spent so far. About 40 hours. So I've already done 40 hours, and that might seem quite a long time for what I've actually done when I show you how much I've done. But that's really because I've done a lot of tinkering, a lot of deleting and then trying again, and just trying to build up areas to make it look as natural as possible. Right, so that's the first area. Now, if we go down here, you see I've built a bridge. And again, this is, I can't remember, I do apologise to people in Canada, but I can't remember the name of the bridge that I based this off, but it is based off a real bridge that goes over a sort of valley and a river below. And again, that took quite a long time of trying to get the right kind of textures on the ground and to make it again look quite natural. And the bridge itself was relatively easy. I'm not 100% happy with it, but so I might do some tinkering as time goes on. But by and large, yeah, I think that looks quite a good bridge. Now, I've tested lots of the different sort of pathways that I've made around what is quite a hilly map on a test map to make sure that guests actually do walk on it and can walk on it. I haven't tested the bridge. Maybe I should. It's certainly wide enough, and they do walk on any modular pieces, so I think they probably will walk on it, so fingers crossed. So yeah, there's the river. There's two main rivers in the map, obviously this is one of them. Now, as you come from this bridge, you come to what I'm calling a rest stop area, and in it I've got a couple of custom toilets that I've made, and I'm trying to keep to a reasonable theme throughout most of this map, and it is kind of very much wood and trunks and that sort of thing. And again, it's based off a vague Canadian thing. Now I've made a custom sign here, and this will be used to designate areas of the park, as well as putting species information on as well. So it'll be used for numerous purposes, but it is a kind of custom sign. Very simple though, nothing particularly complicated. I'm not that happy with the lights. I may take the lights off. I will see how time goes. And this is a restaurant, and obviously it's based around the restaurant prefab, and then I've built a whole bespoke restaurant around it, and I'll show you what goes off to the background in a little bit. And again, it's all custom, all wood and posts and that sort of thing. Now, one of the most difficult things that I wanted to do, and was quite tricky, was obviously I'm having a lot of sort of hilly topography, and paths don't work that well in Prehistoric Canada at the moment, going uphill. So I had to make a kind of solution, but still keep it kind of very sort of rustic and natural. So what I've used, I've created these steps, and they are just a modular pole piece, beam piece, and I've used I can't remember what it's called, the sort of soil inserts that you can use. Now I'm not sure if the guests would walk on these soil inserts, or if they would count as something that guests could walk on. So in amongst the soil insert is actually a plank of wood as well, just to make sure. And I've tested this, and they do walk on it. But actually fitting this in to a raised area was quite difficult. So what I basically did in the end, I probably should have done a bit of a speed build on it, but you place it in place and then raise the ground around it, and then if you raise it a little bit too far, you have to then lower it a bit and then smooth it out, and you get quite a nice effect, and it appears to sort of fit in quite nicely, and like it's, you know, you've cut this path into the landscape really. And as you can see there, another one of the custom signs, and that's just going to be a signpost telling you that if you go that way you get to this kind of rest stop area. Now again, here is a sort of cliff area there, and again sort of my my bespoke guardrail kind of fence. And as you can see there, there's the other end of the restaurant, and as you can see, it's raised above what is actually the first and only so far habitat, sorry, do apologise, it's very late here, that I've made, and I will go into a little bit more details about habitat in a minute. But as you see, you can view it from down there where there's a fence, and here from the restaurant area, and also from the sort of side of this cliff. Now to get down there this way, you have to go down this walkway, and as you can see, it's like the first stepped walkway I showed, but it's a lot longer. I think there's sort of 4 pieces to it, but again, that was really difficult. Sorry, I'm making this a bit clumsy. It was really difficult to fit that in with the terrain and the slope of the hillside, but I think I got there. And there was a lot of work putting the trees in and getting the trees to work in amongst it, and sort of almost be close to where the steps are, but not quite. It was very complicated, but I think it's worked pretty well. What I've also done is I've added some kind of moss covered rocks to fill some of the gaps, because when you're trying to raise terrain to meet the steps, sometimes it wouldn't quite fit, and it would either overlap the steps or it would be a big gap. So what I did is I used moss covered rocks to kind of fill those gaps and make it part of a sloped hillside. Yeah, but if you go down here, you're back onto the path, and I can start to show you the habitat. Now for some reason the species guide board has stopped working, which I do find that happens sometimes. Oh no, it's back there. There we go. It's back there. And yeah, the first habitat I made is with Dryosaurus, which I think in the other park I made that was a proper park, which was Prehistoric Forest, I think I called it, which is my first video. Dryosaurus was the first animal I put in because you can give them a relatively small enclosure, which fitted in well. And this was really kind of a test enclosure, but I quite liked it, so I've kept it. So as much as I can, the fences are all going to be glass. Now the reason for that is one, it gives you a good view, I think, but also it sort of blends in with the rest of the forest. So because it's not a solid wall or metal or wood frame, it kind of blends in a little bit better. So most of the fences are going to be glass, and I really like glass fences. I think they're utterly implausible. Any self-respecting dinosaur could damage any glass fence you want to put there, but you know, we're not dealing with reality, so I'll go with what looks good. Now what I've also done is I've customized the fences by putting log beams, and again that's to kind of keep the theme going. And I've also customized the feeder a little bit by putting some logs around it as well. So yeah, this is the first habitat I've made, first and only. I will sit again playing again. And I've planted a ton of ground plants, and that's really because I just think it looks really good, and it gives the Dryosaurus a really nice habitat to kind of explore in. It is quite small. There's 7 Dryosaurus in here when they're not escaping. But I just think it's a really nice habitat for them. They can't really completely hide in them, in amongst the ferns and ground plants. But I do think it looks quite good as they explore and search for food. And I took a lot of time. It looks like I've just painted ferns on there willy-nilly, but there is a method to it, and I took quite a lot of time to try and get it right. And here's a small pond I put in. And again, I didn't do too much work around this. I tried to keep it quite minimal and just let the plants kind of frame it, and with just a couple of rocks. I do, again, if you've seen my prehistoric forest map, I do quite like a lot of rocks, and I'm trying to kind of not use rocks so much as I have done, because they're an easy way of making something both look kind of realistic, but also it's kind of a kind of quick and easy way of doing it. And I want to find some other methods of merging the habitats into nature, as it were. So yeah, I think I'm really quite pleased with this habitat as a first go, and I originally wasn't going to keep it, but it seemed to work so well that I have decided that I'm going to keep it. Now if we zoom over here, you'll find this is a piece that I've only just made, and I haven't really, it's a kind of a road to nowhere at the moment. So what it is another kind of series of steps that I can use to get down from the different heights of the environment I'm in. But instead of being sort of cut into the hillside, this is very separate to the hillside, and it's a very long stepped piece which can reach from the top of the hill down to the bottom. Sorry, I'm really waffling. I hope you're getting what I'm saying. But I think it looks quite good. I think it works really well, and I may not actually keep it here where I've put it. I may change that over time. But it was a bit of a test. But yeah, I think it works quite well. I do need to retest this to see if guests will use it. I don't think there's any reason why they shouldn't, but I will need to test it, I think, as I go on. And there's the river, and that's pretty much all I've done so far. Now I'll put a picture up here, because I did set up in this area a raised walkway coming from over here, and then branching round to a raised restaurant area. And this space here was going to be a habitat for the Camarasaurus. But actually, I didn't like it once I'd made it. I felt it was maybe a step too far and didn't really fit the theme. And again, I may change my mind. I never really actually 100% finished it, so I've saved it as a prefab, and I may bring it back in at some point. I was thinking of maybe putting it over water, maybe, instead of over land with dinosaurs really close by. So I may bring it back at some point. But again, I spent a couple of hours making it, and then I've completely binned it for now. Well, not completely binned it, but I've decided not to use it. Now, to give you an idea of the sort of scale is, so I spent 40 hours toying with this, and this is the Spain map, I think it is. And the reason I chose the Spain map is because it had nice mountains around the outside of it, which was the closest I could think to a kind of Canadian environment. And what I did was I flattened the whole map, and then I've raised it in quite large amounts to create a kind of hill, almost mountainside, that's split into three places due to two valleys and rivers. And it's a large space. Now, I don't know if I am going to fill it all, but the plan is to fill as much of it as I can. And just to give you an idea of the scale, I will zoom out. I think there you can see it all. That's kind of what I've done, and that's the small area that in my 40 hours of tinkering I've filled so far. Now, I don't know if I'm going to actually use all of this. One thing I learned from the Prehistoric City map is frame rates take a huge hit the more detail you put in, and I love putting in lots of detail, so I may go for a slightly smaller environment and actually keep my frame rates reasonable. It'll be interesting with the update whether frame rates are better or worse, because obviously they're changing quite a lot of the AI, and again, that may make things better or it may make things worse. AI can be a bit of a resource hog, but we'll see. Anyway, that's my little preview video for Prehistoric Kingdom. I do post screenshots to my Instagram page. I'm not that up to date on it, but I will post a few in the next couple of days. And I also post screenshots to the Prehistoric Kingdom Discord. So if you don't go there, I really advise you to. It's really useful, and there's lots of really interesting stuff that people are making. Far more skilled people than me, I should add, making in terms of prefabs and environments and stuff. So yeah, so I hope you like this. I'd be really grateful if you'd give the video a like, add some comments, and if you would subscribe as well. I hope you can see there's quite a lot of promise in this map, and it is going to be a proper park. I keep calling it a map, but it's going to be a proper park. I think the visitors would get quite tired walking around it. It's going to be a bit of a hike, but again, it's only realistic to a certain degree. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe, and I will see you next time.